Let's close out this chapter with the last couple of concepts. Again, what can I do? This social movement has to be everybody's participation, right? Especially climate change. Even though it's going to create winners and losers, at some point it's going to become a global issue that's going to be negative for all, despite some places which actually may remain a winner. Nonetheless, there will be indirect effects like starvation in one place can lead to terrorism and other geopolitical instabilities, armed conflicts, and so on and so forth. So developing creative strategies and taking effective action. This is the purpose of defining a couple of things here. So you start by developing a creative strategy. What is a strategy? Strategy is fundamentally the process of turning what you have into what you want. In other words, turning your resources into your goals. What you have into what you want. Okay? Social scientists have a way of doing things. We scientists are not always used to that, but this common language is needed for combined action, right? Collective action, transformational action. So turning your resources into your goals, simply having more of something, whether it's money or people, doesn't necessarily result in achieving a particular purpose. Just because you mobilized a lot of people or even organized them into something, you may not necessarily achieve a particular purpose. That doesn't mean that you're going to win also by just having more people or more money. Some organizations tend to have lots of money and spend it on all sorts of mobilization by advertisements, brochures, displays, and so on. But does it always work? Not necessarily. So taking measurable, effective action is critical for any strategy that will actually create transformational solutions. So the second leadership practice Marshall Gantz identified to help you to deploy your power is taking measurable, effective action. Okay, so this is an example of Frances Elizabeth Carolyn Willard, who lived in the latter part of the 19th century. She was an American educator, temperance reformer, and women's suffragist. She was obviously very critical for women's voting rights, but she also got into this idea of prohibition, that alcohol was creating a lot of domestic violence problems. This is real. This is true. Even in India, many states have banned alcohol. There are lots of issues with that. Nonetheless, poor people, especially when men control the finances, have alcohol problem, and alcohol often leads to domestic violence. So she started with the idea of prohibition, imposing the ban on production, distribution, and sales of alcohol in the US, and she did everything from scratch, and she created multiple layers of how people would get engaged and actually become part of the action. So she would tell people to give up alcohol and actually go and close down the local bar. One local bar at least. So this is called the Joe's Bar problem. So this is Gantz's idea, finding our Joe's Bar, the experience that teaches us to work with others. That's the key point of building a team to go and close a bar. You find a purpose, you act together. It can be difficult, but people around the world are coming together to call for climate action, as these fossil fuel divestment activists did at the University of California in 2013. Of course, there are many details. As I said before, they want divestment from fossil fuels, but are there alternatives to replace fossil fuels already? So there are systemic changes required to make that possible. To repeat the line from before, from probably some Saudi Arabian energy minister, The Stone Age didn't come to an end because they ran out of stones. Coal has to remain in the ground even though it's enough for next 800 years, let's say, because there are better alternatives. Not only because it's bad for health, but because a country like India, for example, can actually give up coal because it found another source that is affordable or has enough benefits to outweigh the use of coal. And rich countries like Australia that export coal, US that exports coal, have to also find reasons to stop mining coal in the first place. So nonetheless, this is the example of a Joe's Bar approach, and here is the farewell to the 18th Amendment. There's a nice story on the timelines of prohibition. I think after 14 years, prohibition was eventually thrown out after enough numbers of states came together. So I think the alcohol prohibition was 18th Amendment, and this was the only amendment which required another amendment to remove it. So I think that may be like 21st Amendment or something. Nonetheless, this is the farewell to the 18th Amendment, where people are coming together to celebrate. And this is looks like a dark stout, and you can see that's not a small shot. That's like 500 ml, I think. Okay, so these are the key issues. What can you do? Find your Joe's Bar. So you need to find your relational commitment. You need to find your role in the organizational structure, interdependent leadership, and you need to find the why your heart is in it, and then see if you can commit, stay engaged, sustain your activities, and engage others. Find ways to give other people agency, the ability and the autonomy to do what they want to do for this shared purpose. So if climate change mitigation is a purpose, then obviously, as we said, solutions are needed, and this book is all about solutions. But the socio-technical transformations are not always easy, even when the solutions are available. For example, that green freezer that we talked about, that is much better than HFCs, that manufacture and use is going up, but why isn't everybody buying a green freezer? So what are the difficulties in that socio-technical transformation from HFCs to the green freezer? Obviously, not every air conditioning is coming along with the naturally available hydrocarbons, and companies which are already set up to produce the original air conditioners are going to continue till there is some sort of a market-based incentive or a financial incentive to switch, right? So there are many steps involved, but nonetheless you can find your path to your role and your relational commitment for transformative action for social solutions to climate change, right?